Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod with Gary Olson. Gary is founder and CEO at AI Vigil. We're going to talk about AI and Gary's career. Never had a real job, just like myself, was an entrepreneur from day one almost. Interesting background he has. His life from New York. I'm in Oaxaca, Mexico. This pod is brought to you by podpair.com. If you want to start or scale your own podcast, go to podpair.com. Gary, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and about what you're up to nowadays.
Well, pleasure meeting you, and hello to all. So my career started in a unusual way in that my background, I have a engineering degree in computer design, but then I got a call to help a high school design a video studio. And that came from working for my father in a small business that had to do with television and video, and actually changed into other things. And that began a career in television broadcast design. I've, as you said, so I've only worked for myself in my entire adult career, other than that one short stint teaching in a high school. And I've owned companies and started companies and helped other people start companies. My background in broadcast technology, the highlights are designing first commercial television networks for countries in Eastern Europe, including Romania and Slovenia, which happened simultaneously. I designed all the modernization that the United Nations headquarters in New York did to upgrade their systems to high definition television, simultaneous translation. I was the designer and the project architect on that. And through an interesting set of phone calls, and I always say, I answer the phone and I say yes, and I try not to get caught. I ended up in a conversation about applying artificial intelligence in a way that will help potentially solve some of the mass shootings we suffer from in the US by correlating data. And my background, I have 2 books published on the convergence of media and data. So converging media and data in broadcast is not that different than converging media and data, and just in a different application. So that's how I ended up where we are today, with trying to help correlate data and help commercial and law enforcement stop some of the shooting.
Love that. A lot of people talk about more cops in school, but I do believe in a technological solution. I often have guests on the pod, and just yesterday we were talking about US citizens valuing privacy. On my end, I don't value privacy as much. I don't have much to hide. I am an open book, and I believe in adding value to others and giving them data points about my own life so that they can make good decisions about their lives. But I do believe that, yeah, with CTV data, with post data, like a bunch of emotionally unstable folks or mentally unstable folks post a lot of things online, and I think we can make sense of that and potentially prevent these attacks, or at least have people watch over folks that, might be susceptible, and correlate that with X data. So what is your plan exactly to prevent these school mass shootings? What type of data are you checking, and how are you making that data actionable?
Well, what's interesting in the statement that you made about privacy, and personally, I believe in privacy. But when you take a look, and there are published statistics that say that over 75% of the people committing these horrific attacks spend time, weeks, months, announcing their intention using a digital bullhorn on every platform that they have access to. And whether it's a dark web portal or social media or crazy places like 4chan and 8chan, if they tell you who they are, where they are, what they're planning, why they're planning, and when they plan on doing it, you're not compromising anybody's privacy. They're telling you what they're going to do. They're asking you to pay attention. And if somebody pays attention and takes it honestly, there are ways to at least prevent some of them. Not everything, but some of them. And I always say, and this is not original from me, that you can't fix stupid, because if a sheriff or a law enforcement or somebody in a position of understanding is called 12 times by the person that's going to do this, and they write them off as crazy and don't pay attention, and then 3 weeks after a horrific attack, they go, oh, I guess we should have listened. So some of it is the advantage of technology, but if technology tells somebody that there's something going to happen, and the person doesn't take it for granted or listen or take some at least preventative action, it will never prevent it. So
100%.
that's where, using the technology to listen to the bullhorn and to correlate. If you and I play cards and you take my money, I might say I'm going to kill you the next time. You probably don't believe I'm going to come to your house with a knife and a gun. You probably believe that next time my card playing is hopefully going to be better. But if I say it in 10 different places and tell you that I just bought a gun and will be at your house on Tuesday, that's a very different thing than saying, next time we play cards, I'm going to kill you. So that's where, the differences are. So in using the intelligent tools we've built an intelligent tool that correlates data, as I said in my introduction, correlating media and data together to identify commonalities, patterns, or anomalies to patterns is what I'm doing. So that's
Right.
where I fit in. But I thought you didn't want to talk wholly about what I'm doing, and you wanted to talk about artificial intelligence.
Yeah, we'll talk about artificial intelligence in that context, because in my opinion, it's fascinating, and it's probably one of the top 10, if not top 20 problems in the US that, I mean, it won't break democracy, it won't lead to, yeah, upheavals, but it's definitely putting people in altered stress states, it's like, oh, I can't send my kids to school anymore because I don't know if they're gonna come back alive. And like it could
Exactly.
push people to not live in the US anymore. So it's a huge problem, and the media picks up on that, and it's just so toxic for the well-being of the US. So, and it happens there more than any other place in the world. So yeah, I do believe these folks are online. We've seen it in various cases. They announce their intention. Should they be legally prosecuted once we found out that they've made a threat, or should they be rehabilitated in society? It's like, oh, they need psychological help and then they can be better.
I don't know that that's a black and white question. The question becomes, first of all, if they've not committed a crime, then technically they aren't, how do you, we shouldn't be arresting people that haven't committed a crime. However, if you can prevent something and then discover why they were doing it, and whether it's a mental or medical thing is one thing. It may be an emotional thing, something. It may be a reaction to something. People have gone into stores to shoot the manager because they got fired. They're not necessarily mentally ill, but it triggered an emotional response to a potentially financial situation. So I don't think there's a good answer to that question. I think individually each case has to be looked at. But if somebody has a bedroom full of weapons that they obtained illegally, and you would not have known that until they showed up and shot a whole bunch of people, then yes, you can arrest somebody for owning illegal weapons. Those kind of things. If you just stop somebody walking out the door that happens to have a bomb strapped to their chest and discourage them from setting it off, whether you can arrest them for wearing a bomb or not, I'm not a lawyer. I don't play one on television.
Yeah,
At the same
definitely.
time, using technology, and I like to say this, by the time the camera sees the event, it's game over. If a camera sees somebody with a gun, they'll pull the trigger before anybody can do it. If you can discover their intention because they told you, then there are different mechanisms that can be used to convince them not to do it, prevent them from doing it. And whether it's treatment, whether it's crime, whether it's something else, there's people that can make those decisions that are not me. And I believe in the human makes the decision, not the technology, so that the human is making a decision on whether there's something there that they should take it and prevent, or it's not there. And it's sad every time they do it. A strange statistic is a website called gunviolence.org. And in 2023, there were 653 mass shootings. And a mass shooting is more than four or more people killed. Why should we have that crazy number? And that doesn't even include a lot of other statistics on that website. And, it's sad in society. The US is not alone, but the US is the poster child.
It's gunviolencearchive.org, and
There you go. That's
lots
it.
of, yeah, it's terrible. Your technology, the AI side of it, is it like a scraper that goes on various websites, makes sense out of that data and potentially correlates it with past incident? How does the AI work behind your engine?
Well, collecting data is a fool's errand. And so, the amount of data that exists and more data is generated every day, but using intelligence tools, inferential reference knowledge bases and things like that, you can give it information, let's call it training, but knowledge base. And then by using clever semantic, contextual, and faceted polling tools, you can identify within a data set things that match. So rather than collecting all the data in the world that like OpenAI did and then figuring out what to do with it, you look at the data that's available, and whether it's public data and open source, or whether you're given permission to look at collected data, you correlate the data, and you only, with permission, pull in the data that matches what it is that you're looking for. If you're looking for a red car, do you need to collect every car that's ever been built and then use a different tool to look for the color red, and then a different tool to look for a black interior? But now you have all this other data of cars that you don't care about, and then what do you do with it? As opposed to having something that knows how to look for a red car with a black interior. Now, it may find 5 different cars that are red, and you might say, well, I really want a Kia or I want a Subaru, and then it narrows it down. But you're talking about narrowing it down from 5 to 2, not collecting hundreds of millions and then figuring out where in the hundreds of millions are those 2 cars that you like. So data work, that's all about data. So if you can cleverly only look at the data and bypass the data that is not relevant to what you're looking for, you're much more efficient. Your ability to identify something quicker and then get actionable knowledge to somebody that can solve the problem. That's what we're doing.
Are you a fan of ChatGPT?
Nope.
Why?
That's a very long question with a very long answer. But the simple thing is, large language models are interesting. Spending $100 million to scrape data that's copyright protected, patent protected, licensed, and everything else, to figure out a clever way to concatenate it that sounds like a human put it together with a tool that doesn't understand what it did, how it did it. And if you ask it the same question twice, you'll get 2 different answers. And if you spend all the time training it to give you the answer you want, then what did you need it for? So I think the large language model technology will have application in health, medical research, and other things where they know the data that they're looking at, and the tool can help them cull through a lot of data. But you open a Pandora's box when you ask a question like that, because I was thinking about this before our chat. Think of AI metaphorically like baseball or football, or you're in Mexico, your football. So if I'm playing football, then I do everything, right? I'm a kicker, I'm a passer, I'm a coach, I'm a this, because if I'm playing football, I do it all. Well, artificial intelligence is a field of study that's been around since the 1950s. And there's many things that fall into this field of study of artificial intelligence, the same way that on a baseball team, you have a pitcher and a catcher and a coach and an outfielder, and they don't do the same job. They don't have the same skills. A good hitter is not necessarily a great fielder. Hopefully they are. So AI, you have different forms of technologies, machine learning, deep learning, large language models, the generative AIs. All of these things have different use cases, different applications, and they don't do the same thing, and they don't do what the other one does. So when I talk about what I do, my technology does what it does. It's not a chatgpt. It's not, chatgpt doesn't correlate data. If you give it 10 data points and ask it to find a pattern, it will be confused. But if you ask it to write you a poem for your significant lovely words, and if you do the work to find out where it stole it from, it built it on somebody else's tech, on somebody, there you are. You're back a little bit.
Back online.
Okay. Did you hear what I was talking about?
Yes, most of the last part, but I'd argue that ChatGPT is still an incredible tool for most entrepreneurs. Is like having an assistant that normally you'd need to pay 15, 20 bucks an hour. You get it anytime you want, at almost instant speed, and it's capable of stuff that probably 90 to 95 humans, 90 to 95% of humans aren't capable. It's definitely a great assistant.
Well, but if you're treating it like an assistant and not overtaxing a request to do simple things, yes, it has potential value, but does it do everything that everybody wants it to do? Of course not.
Not yet.
And when they throw around bad words, so there's artificial narrow intelligence, ANI, and artificial general intelligence, which is mimicking what the human brain does. And not even close to what the human brain does. And the same thing, if you're looking at it in the very narrowest way, in some time, will it be able to be clever? Yes. But you and I are having a conversation. So you're listening to my words. You're blinking to make your eyes moist because you're staring at a dry screen. You're thinking about 3 different things that are not part of this conversation. You're reading your screen. You're controlling the recording, and you're planning the next 3 interviews, all in real time. Okay.
More or less.
Plus you're smelling, you're
Yes.
breathing, you're doing all kinds of muscle reaction things that are bodily functions.
Mhm.
And you're doing all of that, which is, let's call it multitasking
Right.
in real time without showing that, those things are going on. Computers don't
Subconsciously,
do that.
sort of, yeah, iceberg type of, yeah. I'm also having conversations with GPT. It's definitely not a human intelligence, sort of an alien form of intelligence. We don't really know what's going on under the hoods, but I'm having calls with GPT. There's Hey Pi and there's ChatGPT on your phone, and I mean it takes a couple of seconds for it to respond, but mind that it's pretty good at conversations. I think it's sort of a representation of us humans, definitely not the same, but has
But when you say
potential.
it's having a conversation,
Yeah,
all it's doing, so have you ever talked to Alexa?
yeah, Alexa's pretty weak. It's definitely
Well,
not in the
so
realm
what
of
Alexa
GPT.
is a speech to text translator
Right.
that's designed to sell your product.
Yeah, and
Okay,
Google Home
so
too.
right, so ChatGPT is a text to text thing, or on your phone it's speech to text, and then it has a big library of words that it can stitch together and offer you a response. Did you read about, I think it was the New York Times columnist, where ChatGPT told him to kill his wife because it was in love with him?
Yeah, early days. I think it was GPT
Right.
three, right, or something like that.
It doesn't make a difference. The technology doesn't have an understanding.
And I think it was Bing to be precise. Yeah, I don't. It wasn't
It was Bing,
GPT.
but
Yeah,
Bing is ChatGPT under Microsoft's
yeah.
umbrella.
It's a really bad version of GPT. Like
Well, they bought it. I mean,
yeah,
they own 49% of the company. So
right.
guess what?
But I
They
mean,
get
it
to use the
wasn't full
technology for that investment.
because ChatGPT, I view it like sort of me. I read on Wikipedia a lot. Wikipedia is probably one of my best friends. And ChatGPT, I see a lot of wiki in there. I see it a lot of valuable information that comes from Wikipedia, one of the world's greatest engine for knowledge, in my opinion. It's crowdsourced, not perfect, but it's very much human. It is biased, yes, but I like it because I feel I'm having a convo with a smart friend. Can discuss
Well,
politics, we can discuss any topics, AI, mass shootings, corruption, and it will have an idea to feed my brain, and then I can ask a better question from that new idea.
ChatGPT published the fact that basically they scraped Reddit and
Yeah,
Wikipedia up until 2021.
New York Times and
And well, but that was all within those two spaces. And then had a ton of humans in Kenya clean the data, put it back in so that you can have a fun conversation and ask it. And the reason that it looks like Wikipedia is because that's where it took its data from.
right.
Now they have a web crawler, so they're stealing data from other places.
Yeah, Bing, for example, I guess Microsoft, they gave them a trove of data, which is why that partnership made sense.
Right. But what's Bing? Bing is a search engine. And all it does is search other people's work and point you to that work. What ChatGPT does, which is where the problem is it doesn't give you the references of where it found the answers.
Right.
So if you ask it a question, it gives you an answer. It claims it for its own. And if you look it up separately, you'll find where the authors are and whether A, it's protected or not, but B, who's the original author. ChatGPT is not an original author of anything.
Right. There's tools like perplexity.ai that send their sources. I think if you ask GPT, it may send some sources and the new web search will tell you where it got that information. But I
Well,
mean,
that
yeah,
has to do with, yeah, but that has to do with all the lawsuits that they have.
Yeah, most probably, and that's very much Sam Altman and Silicon Valley style. It's like, yeah, you'll be sorry later. You know, first you break things and then you're sorry, which is not always the best philosophy to operate in this world. Gary, short convo. Wish we had more time. Where can people find out more about you online?
They can find out more about me online, both on LinkedIn. The website is ai-vigil.com. And I'm very responsive if you want to find me on LinkedIn. And I'm happy to have the conversation about what AI is and what AI isn't. And I'm even more happy to have a conversation about how we stop all of this horrific hostility by being on the preventive side, not on the reactive side.